if you combine your knowledge as a coach with the tech, you're just an improved coach. It takes both. It's not either or. The tech is not replacing us. Don't get nervous. But because the technology is only as good as the knowledge of the coach. And as your knowledge increases, technology becomes an even more important tool because you are going to be able to validate what you know you know. How's it going, everybody? I want to welcome you to the Complete Game partnership with 4D Motion Sports. My name is Rob Cruz, and I'm the owner, founder of Complete Game. I'm happy to present some of the techniques and the ways that I use 4D Motion to assist me in the overall development of my athletes. I specialize in overall player development, from hitting to throwing to base running to fielding, outfield play, infield play, but I'm more known for what I'm able to do with hitters. But I chose 4D Motion because of I feel like the usability is very easy and simple. The interface in the app is very intuitive and very easy to understand and get quick answers to the immediate questions that you have as a coach, whether it's in session or whether you're looking at the data post session. And I like the idea of being able to do in session or in lesson training via the app to get quick, immediate results without disrupting my session and getting caught up into the app, ignoring the student, and then all of a sudden time is up. So 4D helps me to solve those types of issues. So what I normally do is I will use 4D motion sensors in conjunction with something like a swing sensor from, let's say, Dynakinetics or Rapsodo, just to be able to show how the movement of the body or how the sequencing of the body or how the stability, for example, of the spine affects exit velocity. We're able to intercept science with our knowledge. So we can say, okay, I know what I know, but now here's the proof because I'm able to measure it. And I'm able to measure the improvement as well. So it kind of holds me accountable as a coach to what I want to do for my athletes, because now I can show them, hey, we're getting better here. Or I can tell them, hey, when you do this, this is how hard or how fast you're swinging the bat. But when you do that, this is how hard you're not hitting the ball, and we can show the comparison. So I typically like to work a lot with just, to keep it simple, just shoulders and hips. So I'll put a sensor on the chest, and I'll put a sensor on the hips, and we'll just go. And hitters will take some swings. We'll check out what the exit velocity was on the last swing, and then we'll go back and say, okay, were you in sequence? Okay, so if you were in sequence, that means that your hips were leading your shoulders or leading your chest. And if that's the case, then you're probably going to be generating a lot more power and have a lot more efficiency because of the sequencing. And then we also look at the deceleration as well, because a hitter that's accelerating in a certain sequence should also be decelerating in the same sequence. And then we want to be able to just kind of check it and say, okay, well, we're in sequence in transition, and we're also in sequence in how we decelerate. And then we can say, when you do this, here's what the exit velocity looks like. Just on a tee. It doesn't even have to be front toss, just so they can see how much harder they're hitting the ball. And if we're using exit velocity as the barometer for the potential of an athlete, if you're hitting the ball really, really hard, and that ball is leaving your bat at a really high exit velocity, then if we can tweak a few things in those metrics, we can get that bat path and that swing plane to be a lot more efficient, and we can start hitting some really hard rising line drives that way. When I go into what we call full capture mode, this is where it gets real deep, because now I'm able to see the acceleration rates, and I'm able to see the speed gains. So, for example, I'm going to look for the hips and shoulders to have a speed gain of anywhere between 30 and 60%. If we have that, if we're in that range, then that means that this player is efficient. And everybody's going to be a little bit different, but we don't want to have a speed gain of less than 30% or more than 60%, because according to biomechanics and science and research, that is not going to give us the efficient swing that we need. So looking at the speed gain ranges gives me an idea of where this particular athlete needs to be. And I'm keeping track of it. So every time this person comes in, and the app does it for you. So I can go back and look at swings from the last 3 days, swings from the last month, and I can look at swings all time and track the improvement. And I keep track of which drills are able to help players to make those improvements as well. When I'm using 4D Motion as a assessment tool or a specific intake for a new client, then that's something totally different, because now I'm trying to get a baseline for where this person's coming in at. I want to be able to show them how I'm going to help them to improve. So I want to show them, hey, here's where you are, and here's why you're where you are, and here's where I think we need to go, and here's how we're going to get there. So once you have those numbers, you can show them, okay, here, your hip speed is 450 degrees per second in terms of how you're rotating, right? Let's get that number into the 500s or the low 600s, all right? And let's get that speed gain to be, somewhere in that 30 to 60% range. And then they're going to start to see differences in how hard they hit the ball, and their exit velocity is going to improve. And then we're going to start the process. Then we start the process of improving the athlete, and hopefully it transcends and it transforms and it translates into in-game performance. A lot of this is just understanding the numbers, but also really understanding how the body works. Because any technology is only as good as the knowledge of the coach. So when I'm using 4D Motion technology in a clinic situation, and if you combine your knowledge as a coach with the tech, you're just an improved coach. It takes both. It's not either or. The tech is not replacing us. Don't get nervous. But because the technology is only as good as the knowledge of the coach. And as your knowledge increases, technology becomes an even more important tool, because you're going to be able to validate what you know. At the end of the process is a ball gets hit. We want to know how hard people are hitting the ball. So exit velocity is going to be the chief metric. Whoever's hitting the ball the hardest are going to be the most successful hitters. Bottom line. All right, so here's what we got. We got hard hit balls, we got exit velocity, right? But then the body has to move a certain way for exit velocity to actually happen. It starts with ground force, it goes up the kinematic chain, so forth and so on into the hands, and the hands deliver the barrel. We have swing data with swing trackers. So we have Dynakinetic swing tracker, Blast Motion swing tracker. Those are the two major players in that game. And when we're talking about 4D Motion, we're talking about being able to measure with sensor technology precise movements of the body, whether that's sequencing, whether that's mobility, or whether that's spine stability, and then also tracking the speed gains of the kinematic sequence. So when the hips turn, how fast did the shoulders turn because of the hips? When the shoulders turn, how fast did the hands move because of the shoulders? And when the hands turn, how fast did the barrel move because of the hands? And if you're looking at it in that fashion, then we're able to really, really help our players to understand this process so much better. So for me, I'm always looking at metrics like spine stability, because I know that if a player can stabilize their spine better, they're going to be able to have a better shoulder plane, which is going to give them a better bat path. And bat path always leads to a higher quality of contact, which is all I'm after, because we don't want ground balls. I mean, some of you guys might want ground balls, but I don't want ground balls. So I'm using it for what I want. If you want ground balls, you can use it for that. You can use it to create ground balls. But we're not telling you what to do. We're telling you that here are the tools that can support whatever your philosophies are, especially if your philosophies are in alignment with what science has told us, what science and biology has taught us. Speed gains. So speed gains are crucial. So we want the shoulders or the chest to have a 30 to 60% speed gain, or to be 30 to 60% faster than what the hips were. And if that's happening, then we know we're efficient. That's just an example of one of the speed gains. And I'm using it in that fashion because I want to make sure that my players are in the right range. And then once I figure out whether a player is in sequence or not, then I have to be able to employ the proper drills that are necessary. So when I'm in a clinic situation or in a camp situation, I don't always have the time to get that information to the players. So once I get the data captured, I usually have to go home. That's where the real work begins on my part. Because I have to take all the data from that day. I have to take the exit velocity. I have to take the launch angles. I have to take the swing biases that player may have. And then I have to say, I have to take the bat speed, the max acceleration, time to collision, the casting, hand casting distance. All those things that I believe are factors in why that path would not be good. And then I come up with, okay, here are the solutions on how we're gonna fix this stuff. And then I deliver it to the athlete. Or I deliver it to the coach of that athlete. And then they can take it from there and they can say, here's the program that we're gonna put you on because this is gonna help you to improve your sequencing. This is gonna help you to improve your spine stability. This is gonna help you improve your speed gain ranges. Maybe a player is in the proper sequence on the way to the ball, but then in deceleration, they're out of sequence. So we need to help them to figure that out. So there's all types of things that we can do, but you can't help players if you don't have the knowledge to help them. The software and the technology is identifying the issues, and some of them do a pretty good job of giving you some of the resources to help you to be able to solve some of the problems. But for the most part, we have to do our due diligence as coaches as well. 4D Motion is always coming out with new updates and innovation. They listen to us. I can call them on the phone and give them my ideas, and they're more than willing to listen almost 100% of the time. And I appreciate that. And I feel like they're in it to win it, and they're in it to help us win it. And I like working with companies like that. I like working with true technology companies. I'll leave it right there. I like working with true technology companies. And 4D Motion is that.